can do this with my eyes closed. It's too easy. It's too easy. I can do this with my eyes closed. It's too easy. Too easy. It's too easy. I've been there, done it, seen it. Boy, all that like Keenan. Still got crack, they fiendin'. Flow still hot like Phoenix.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Breaking Bet for Bet Karma. I'm your host, Johnny VTV, and join with me. I wouldn't have any other way, man. Welcome, Matt Grissom, dude. I mean, just absolutely called that South Carolina upset last night. I was not happy about it. How you doing, buddy?
I'm great after that. I wish I would have put more on it, but I'm thankful that you had me back on because I felt like you were going to delete my number from your phone and never talk to me again. So glad to be back, Jay. You spoke it into existence, and I didn't like it. So, it kind of brings us into our segment, recapping the Thursday night games, before we get into today's games. So the LSU South Carolina, for anybody that missed the show yesterday, my point was I really believe South Carolina had a great chance to take the series and hand LSU their first series loss of 2023. But I went with LSU last night because, number one, I don't like to bet against Paul Skeens. He's been the best pitcher in college baseball by a landslide. But number two, LSU, they are at their best on Friday nights behind Skeens. Offensively, the bullpen, they got their best guys coming out. And LSU, like every other team, but more so the Tigers, they make it a point to try to win game one with him on the mound because the way it goes right now, they have some question marks with their number 2 and number 3 spot in the rotation, Matt. So my feeling was, you have the advantage with Skeens on the mound every time out. And then South Carolina has a deeper pitching rotation, and they have a better bullpen right now, and they have arguably a better offense. So they were going to have the advantage in games 2 and 3, which is why I thought the series was going to go in their favor. But I'll say this. The rain out changed everything, or the rain delay. If that game is not rain delayed, maybe South Carolina still wins, but Paul Skeens is probably going at least six innings. And that game is probably not going to be more than a 2-run deficit going into the later innings. Yeah. And look, hats off to James Hicks, product of Conway, Arkansas. Went to the same high school I did. He comes out and pitches a gem, and obviously he was backed up by some really good batting, but South Carolina just owned it after that rain delay. And that changed everything. I mean, we talk all the time about double headers and stuff. It makes the whole series get weird. And South Carolina made it get weird last night and walked away with the victory. And now they're going for the series today. I think they're up 4-1 right now, which, you called that. If South Carolina could pick up these next 2 and get a sweep on LSU, we're talking, Gamecocks may jump. Who knows, first, second place. Yeah, just like I said yesterday, if you're looking at a futures ticket, which now you probably missed it with South Carolina, but I feel like there's some really good value on the Gamecocks at plus whatever it was, 15-1 yesterday, 18-1, something like that.
Well, actually, it's funny you say that. So, first of all, I'm so pissed off that the first game of the doubleheader today for LSU South Carolina, which obviously had an early start, a noon Eastern time start, that wasn't out there. Like, obviously, did we not talk about this yesterday? I was going to bet South Carolina in games 2 and 3, regardless of how it went last night. But even with a team like LSU, playing for a bounce back, they got mopped. It doesn't always work like that when you're playing a team of this caliber, of how good South Carolina is. So I was looking to play the Gamecocks today. And, of course, they don't offer the line. And, that really pisses me off. So I think they're playing a doubleheader today, which also kind of ruins the handicap. So I actually think it works more in favor of South Carolina for a doubleheader than it does for LSU because of the bullpen. But neither here nor there. We didn't have an opportunity to bet this game. So now we have to kind of fall back and see what goes on for game 3 if we get a line. I think it's going to be Noah Hall versus Christian Little, another advantage via South Carolina. But in terms of the futures, I love the point you brought up. And I texted you last night. When South Carolina was up like 6 runs late after the rain delay, we're talking.
Yep.
They were still at 25-1 on DraftKings.
I hit them. I hit him again because I already had him at 50-1, but I hit him again at 25-1. Because I'm like, yeah, like if they take this game, which they ended up taking it, and they win the series, God forbid they sweep, we're going to wake up on Monday morning and it's going to be maybe 11-1, 12-1 in favor of the Gamecocks. So I take it. About 25 minutes later, it's down to 18-1 where it currently sits right now. I would probably say if you want South Carolina, you still have a small window to grab them, because if they win one of these next two games and they're on their way to winning game 2 and taking the series in the first 2, they're probably going to move again after this. So there's still a little bit of time, a small window if we haven't taken a little piece of the Gamecocks. But, man, we talked about it. This is no surprise. This team is an absolute wagon. They're a juggernaut. They have so many different ways to beat you. And, Will Sanders pitched really well. The umpire was terrible, though, to be honest. Like, the pitches were 5 feet off the plate and the pitchers were getting the call. But that's the outing they needed from Will Sanders. And if he's throwing the way he threw last night for South Carolina, this is going to be a team that is going to make a very deep run in June.
Yep. And I don't think their price is going to get any cheaper either, or better value. I mean, they've got series coming up against Vanderbilt. They'll probably beat them. Florida, that'll be a tough series, but they get them at home. Auburn, Kentucky. I mean, they've got a pretty easy SEC schedule until they go to Fayetteville to end the season and then host Tennessee in the last series. So South Carolina may be this may be the best time you can get on them.
Yeah, I think the ship is about to sail. So if you haven't punched your ticket, I would do so now. 18-1 is not the end of the world. It's funny because I remember, Matt, I think when we had a podcast, maybe like the third week of the season, I don't remember, talked about South Carolina at 100-1, that I thought they were a really good ticket, and they just had so much firepower early. And, I wasn't sure if they were going to sustain it, but the fact that South Carolina was 100-1 about 5 weeks ago, and they're down to 18-1 it's not surprising, but it's just like, I was kind of speaking about it, and I got on Saracen around that time and put a little ticket for South Carolina to make the College World Series at 10-1. I mean, that looks like a really good ticket right now.
Yeah, I love it. What's next on the slate?
Okay, so we're going to get into a couple of the games here, but before we do so, if you want all the player prop predictions that are part of Bet Karma Premium, go to betkarma.com/JohnnyVTV and sign up. NBA, college baseball, and NHL player props are also included. That's a big one. Get behind Johnny VTV on Bet Karma. I mean, if you're not, I don't really understand what you're doing. But this brings us into our first game here. This is how we started it off yesterday. There was a scheduling mix-up. This is game 1 of the series. Big ACC showdown between the number 20 Miami Hurricanes and number 7 Virginia Cavaliers. So this price moved. This was Miami like 160 yesterday for the open. And now, when they kind of realized that Friday was the game 1 of the series, it's out to Miami at plus 180. I don't know about you. I know you like Virginia, but now we're getting to the point where Virginia is almost unbettable, because, quite frankly, as good as Brian Edgington has been, that's their best starter for Virginia. That's like their one real pitcher. This is a big price to be backing a team that doesn't have a great bullpen, that is really relying on only a couple guys on offense, and you're going against a red-hot Miami team that, outside of a sweep from Wake Forest, they've played as good of baseball as almost any other team in the entire country over the last month. So I'm taking Miami at plus 180. I love it even more. I think this is a full unit play. If you're feeling a little froggy, I would leap at a nice couple long shot parlays, because I think Miami has a good chance to come home if Carson Ligon has a strong start.
Yeah, it's almost getting too high now. I feel like the only play is to back Miami. I got Virginia minus 175, and I honestly don't know when I bet that to get that number. It's moved a lot then. But it's kind of like LSU, South Carolina last night. The number just got too out of hand. I felt like all the value was on South Carolina, and now I feel like you're on the right side with Miami. The number's too high. Miami should not be plus 180 against a conference matchup.
Yeah, for sure. This is too much. I think this is a series Miami can take. I'm not big on Virginia. I think Virginia, beat up on some weaker opponents early. But that Virginia Tech series loss really highlighted some glaring problems and weaknesses for them. And, of course, it's an in-state rivalry. It's one of those, it could be the best team versus the worst team, but they're still going to be, going down till the end, which was the case here. But I just don't like Virginia's bullpen. I don't know if they have enough firepower on offense outside of like Jake Geloff and Kyle Teal. I'm not in love with this team. They're not flashy. They don't really make me feel comfortable betting them in a matchup of this magnitude.
Sorry, the airplanes were flying over. But yeah, I agree that outside of the starters, I think Virginia could get shaky. But again, I'm not that high on this Miami team, but we'll see how it plays out.
Yep, as LSU has cut it to 1. Jack Mahoney struggling a little bit. It's a 2-run home run for Jordan Thompson. That kid has come on really strong, dude. And if Jordan
I'm glad
Thompson's
to see him in the
like
lineup.
This, yeah. If Thompson's playing like this for LSU, that makes them even more difficult to defend. So South Carolina currently clinging to a 1-run lead right now. This is going to be one that it's going to go down to the wire tonight. LSU does not respond poorly to getting thumped the night before. So
and the Gamecocks were pretty cocky about it too. A lot of bat flips, a lot of trash talk.
Yeah,
LSU, they better be careful because LSU's got some dudes that they're not going to take that lightly. Wouldn't be surprised if they start chirping back now that they've cut it closer.
Yeah, so that's going to be one to watch for the rest of the afternoon. But Matt, let's get to your team. They're playing a doubleheader. This really torpedoed our best play of the day yesterday. The Arkansas Razorbacks at the Ole Miss Rebels. The price is a little bit more corrected today with Arkansas at -125 at Ole Miss. I haven't gotten confirmation, so they're playing a doubleheader, and the first game I think is at 3 Eastern time, and the second game is going to be at 7:30. So
yes,
for this matchup, and anybody that's like listened to the podcast before knows, Matt, that I'm not a big doubleheader guy. However, in the first game of a doubleheader and you have the pitching advantage that you want, I'm fine with it. So today for game 1, I do like Arkansas on the money line if Hunter Holland is throwing. It's the same handicap as yesterday. Nothing changes for me. If Hunter Holland's throwing, which I think he should, I haven't seen any confirmation yet. The big reason why is not only is he due for a bounce back after a poor start from Alabama, but Ole Miss has not hit lefties well. I mentioned this yesterday. They got swept in 3 games by Vanderbilt, who has probably the only all-lefty starting rotation in the country. Those starters held this Ole Miss lineup to only 4 runs and 11 hits in 20 innings. That kind of speaks volumes. And, Hunter Holland's a guy who had success against an LSU lineup, who's one of the best teams in the nation. So I think here, if this is the pitching matchup that we're going to get, when it's probably also Jack Doherty on the side for the Rebels, who has a 5.8 ERA, I think I'm taking Arkansas all day long. That this is probably a 2-unit play. I don't really know how game 2 shakes out. Will McIntyre on the mound, but I think we have to capitalize with Arkansas game 1 while we can.
Yeah, if Mac even plays, I'm not sure. I haven't heard from my source if he's over the flu. But like you said, Arkansas starts at 3:00 in the first game. Handicap it just like regular Friday night start. We'll see in that second game what the line is. And shout out to my co-host on College Baseball Insiders. He contacted DraftKings, told him to post a line for the Arkansas early game because it was a doubleheader. And then just a couple hours ago, I saw it pop up. So yeah, Arkansas -125. Feel like it's still a 2-unit play for me as well.
Yeah, I have Arkansas on a couple parlays. I actually had a quick story. This morning, I was putting in all my plays, and I did a nice big parlay, 4-teamer, and it was like a 2-unit parlay for me. So Arkansas was one of the legs, but I forgot that they were playing a doubleheader, and it didn't make sense. Like, why are you only posting the second game? That doesn't make any sense, because you're probably going to use what happened in the first game and probably, adjust the lines for the second, not the other way around. So I was like, oh my God, I didn't realize that it was the second game I was betting, and that's probably not going to be Hunter Holland. So I had to call up my host, and he thankfully got it voided. So I was able to, do a different play there. But I definitely think Arkansas is the side this afternoon. So I'm not looking to go Ole Miss with Jack Doherty game 1.
Agreed.
All right. So we have a series that's near and dear to my heart here. We got the Florida Gators, who are underdogs again at the Tennessee Volunteers. Tennessee lost 6-1 last night. This team is just about to be in an absolute free fall if they keep it up. Brandon Sproat was the bounce back we expected. He is the ace of one of the best teams in the country, so that's no surprise. Chase Dollander did not pitch bad. He got a ridiculous Blake Burke error, his 8th of the year, that led to a run. He had a couple walks that hurt him, and he wasn't able to spot his pitches late. His line looks a lot worse than he actually did, but I think Dollander continues to show some more improvement on his pitches. But, overall, man, this Tennessee team just does not look good, and I can't justify laying it with them right now the way they're playing.
Yeah, that was a dumb play by me. Hats off to Quentin for picking his Gators that plus money price, because Florida is hands down the better team. I don't think that they're going to sweep Tennessee, but if they pick up another game here, it may be all things a go on Sunday or Saturday for Caglione to come in and get the sweep.
So for me, if I'm taking a side here, I would and nothing is official. I'm officially not on this game. They don't even have totals or run lines like the last 2 weekends. I don't know what we're doing. I don't really understand what's happening, why this is occurring, but I would take Florida at the plus money with Hurston Waldrop on the mound. Waldrop is he's probably the 4th best arm, coming off the board this July. He has great strikeout stuff, but he does struggle with command at times. He works deep pitch counts. But ultimately, Chase Burns is kind of in that same boat, and Florida's offense is raking right now. So I would probably lean with Florida today to take the series. And then I'd back Tennessee tomorrow with Drew Beam, because Drew Beam, in my opinion, is still the best Sunday guy in baseball. I mean, Drew Beam's awesome. And I think as good as Jack Caglione, his stuff is, the guy's on back-to-back outings where he's walked 8 guys. So if Caglione continues to be super inaccurate, then I think tomorrow will be a nice play for Tennessee to salvage a game 3. So today, Florida would be the play for me if I had something official on the card.
Yeah, same for me, but I haven't bet it. I'll probably stay away unless it moves one way or another. Makes it a little more valuable of a play.
And we talked about this, dude. We talked about how dangerous we're getting into territory here for Tennessee, because they're in danger of falling several spots in the top 25. And not only that, but now they might not even be a number 1 hosting regional seed heading into the tournament. I mean, listen, that wouldn't be the worst case scenario, for a Volunteers team. If we've seen it happen with Ole Miss, if they could get hot down the stretch, and they're the under the radar team that people are kind of forgetting about, that would play well in their favor. But I mean, to this point right now, this is really sink or swim time for this Volunteers team. So if they lose this series, it's pretty much get it back together starting next week, because this is just not looking like the team that we were expecting in 2023.
And it's not going to get any easier for them. I mean, next weekend they've got a series at Arkansas. Tony Vitello, he was on the coaching staff under Dave Van Horn. They've got the classic argument meme of college baseball where they got into it. Dave Van Horn was ripping him a new one. Then they've got Vanderbilt, who's, playing some of the best baseball in the country right now. And yeah, they get a little break with Georgia, Kentucky, but then they end at South Carolina. So if you're looking at their schedule, wondering when they're going to get a series win, it may be a while. I mean, these Vols, they've got to turn it on, or their season's going to get away from them sooner than later. And it may have already done it. I mean, if they don't win tonight, it may be very tough for them to climb their way from the bottom.
I mean, it's hard to say that again to a team that's 21-9 right now. But I mean, you're kind of looking at it. So they have to win at least one game in this Florida series. And then, Arkansas, that's a tough series. They could get swept. Then they have Vanderbilt. That's another one you could get swept. Mississippi State, that's one that you would think they should take. Georgia, they should take. Kentucky, they should take. So those three series between Mississippi State, Georgia, and Kentucky, that's pretty much going to be what dictates them, because, you probably right now would expect them to lose Arkansas and Vanderbilt. And that's coming off losing LSU and possibly losing Florida. So this is really a crossroads for this Volunteers team, and they have to figure it out quickly.
Yeah, and in the SEC, if you don't figure it out quickly, you're going to struggle. I mean, Ole Miss did it last year, but you still see how that ended for them. But that hot, cold, hot theory, and Tennessee hasn't really gotten that hot yet, but we'll see what happens the rest of the year. They've got the pitching staff to be good. I think they've just got to get their bats alive.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think once that happens, then we're going to be talking about a much different team, because, it's hard when you have a Tennessee pitching staff that is as good as they are. And even though they haven't performed up to that level, they've been very underwhelming. It's much different mentally going into a start knowing, all right, I can't give up more than 1 or 2 runs to have a chance to win. Whereas last year, most of the time they're getting somewhere between 7 and 12 runs in any given start, where it's like, okay, I give up 3-4 runs, not the end of the world. But this year, it kind of is the end of the world.
Yep.
Okay, so let's move on to this next one here. We have Boston College plus 130 at number 18, Louisville Cardinals minus 160. Louisville is going for the series win today. But, Matt, how we handicap this every Saturday or every game 2 of a series. We got our guy, Chris Flynn from Boston College. Backing Boston College with Chris Flynn on the mound in game 2 has been one of the most profitable betting strategies in all of college baseball. Maybe only Paul Skeens has been better than Chris Flynn so far. This kid has been unreal, that we truly could look at this kid being one of the 5 or 6 best pitchers for 2023 when it's all said and done, if he keeps this up. So I'm taking Boston College, automatic smash play. Louisville, to me, is not that good. They had an out-of-body start from Ryan Hawks last night, who just piled up the strikeouts. So I think Boston College evens the series, and I think they take it at a plus 130 behind their ace, Chris Flynn.
Yep, plus money Chris Flynn, man. I don't think he's been a favorite yet, and we just continue to hammer him, and he keeps coming through for us. It's a beautiful stat line, 1.76 ERA, 6-1 as a starter. I mean, if you're going to keep giving me plus money, that it's going to be an auto play every week.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the fact that we're getting a guy who's this caliber. And listen, his 1.76 ERA is bloated. That's a bloated ERA because he had one bad start a couple weeks ago against North Carolina State. But he came back last week, 6 innings, 1 run, 9 punchies against Georgia Tech. So I expect him to dot this Louisville lineup that, quite frankly, it's not that good. Louisville is a very overrated program that is kind of coasting off last year's no accomplishments. They had 2 really good hitters that they lost. I mentioned it yesterday. They had Dalton Rushing, their catcher. They had Cam Masterman. They combined for almost 50 home runs last year. Those guys aren't in the lineup. So now this is a much different ball game. So I think Boston College is the absolute play here. This is a smash spot. That's a full unit play for the boys. Your Honor. No objection.
Yep. Riding it with you. And is Louisville starting Greg Ferrone? Is that projected starter?
Yeah, Louisville's starting Greg Ferrone, who I don't really think is.
I love it. He's got a 5.4 ERA. Let's get this home again, Chris Flynn. This may be the last weekend we get him at a plus price. I think the books are getting a little sharper with it.
Well, I think tomorrow,
especially with as quickly as they move that South Carolina futures ticket, I think people are finally starting to pay attention.
For who? South Carolina?
Just everybody in general. I mean, because it took them, 5 weeks to move Wake Forest, and then it took them less than 24 hours to move South Carolina. So somebody's paying attention to what's going on.
Well, that's just kind of a put on notice kind of thing. So, Boston College, the reason why I really also like them outside of Chris Flynn, they dropped the opener. They end up almost making a comeback. They lose 6-4 after being down 6-1 in the top of the ninth. But the thing is, tomorrow they have a really tough matchup. So Jack West was a guy who we talked about. He was starting on Friday nights and on series openers. They've kind of moved him to the Sunday role. And tomorrow he's got a really tough matchup with Carson Liggett. Carson Liggett's 6-0 with a 1.75 ERA this year. I mean, he's gone quality starts in 3 straight outings against Georgia Tech, Notre Dame, NC State. So, or not quality starts, but he's only allowed 4 earned runs in 16 and a third innings in those last 3 starts. So I think if Boston College is going to take one, it has to be today. I don't think they take one tomorrow. So I think ultimately they might lose this series, but I don't think they get swept.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, let's move on here to the one that almost gave me an ulcer last night because they almost blew a 7-2 lead because Tim Corbin, for whatever reason, decided to leave that moron who gave up 4 or 5 runs in the bottom of the 8th inning. I don't even remember his name. Instead of bringing in Nick Maldonado to close the door. So despite all that, Vanderbilt comes home as a -190 money line, favorite, which was big, and they only win 7-6 after being up 7-2. I almost had an ulcer with that. Obviously, we're not laying -240. Do you think today is the day Mizzou takes one?
I don't. I'm not buying into this Missouri team. I think Vanderbilt's just head and shoulders. It doesn't matter who they throw out there. I think Vanderbilt easily gets another series win and series sweep.
So Vanderbilt they're a money line parlay leg today. We're not laying 240. Hunter Owen's on the mound. Hunter Owen should be in for a good start here. I mean, really, Mizzou's just got one guy, Luke Mann, who I actually can't stand right now, and they're leading him off. But outside of that, this Mizzou lineup is nothing special. So if Hunter Owen can just throw strikes and kind of pitch the way he did a couple weeks ago where he threw a complete game shutout against Ole Miss, I think this should be a relatively easy win. Vanderbilt should come home. This is a good money line parlay leg. The one concern I have is if this game is close late, we're probably not going to see Maldonado again. He was tasked with closing out the last 4 or 5 outs of yesterday. So then it's like I know they still have a good bullpen, Vanderbilt, but Maldonado has been the most sure thing next to like Camden Minacci and Andrew Walters this year. So I think ultimately Vanderbilt will come home. I do think Mizzou is in line to maybe pull one off tomorrow with Chandler Murphy going. That's where I would bet Mizzou is tomorrow money line if you're looking to take advantage. Vanderbilt is off my card completely tomorrow because it would not surprise me to see the Tigers pull one out.
You're a brave man backing them. I just haven't seen enough out of Missouri.
They're such a pain in the ass. I can't stand them. They're just such a pain in the ass team that like refuses to go away. They're not good, but then sometimes they want to play like they're good. It's just they're a pain in the ass. I can't stand Mizzou, and we need Vanderbilt to make sure we get this one home tonight because I do have them in a couple plays here.
Yeah, and that was the Virginia play that I got at -175 I was talking about. I guess that was a carryover. It didn't cancel yet, knock on wood.
Really?
I hope it doesn't. Yeah. For whatever reason, Bet Saracen, they don't cancel them. It's live action as long as the game is played within 24 hours. But I did do a Virginia Vanderbilt parlay on DraftKings, which is +106 play. I feel pretty confident in the 2 V schools. Do you have anything else you like on this card?
Yeah,
It's kind of
I got a couple. So
I'm gonna lean on you to tell me what games are still going on because I feel like every other game is getting canceled.
Yeah, I know, right? All right, we're gonna do it. We got the Washington Huskies again at +135 against the Arizona Wildcats at -165. So we talked about this yesterday. I grabbed Washington at +165, and I kind of spoke about this. They were throwing Stu Flensland III, who had a pretty strong start in the opener, and they let their boy Kiefer Lord go on full rest. So he's on today. Kiefer Lord has been pretty good this year. He wasn't great against Oregon State, but he was pretty good against UCLA. And I think honestly, man, this is really how it lined up with yesterday's conversation, that the Huskies win game 1 and they win game 2 because they have the clear pitching advantage here. And, Washington almost gave the game away late last night, but they, mounted some runs to win 13-8. But this Arizona team is in a free fall. TJ Nichols is out of the starting rotation right now. They just don't have any reliable arms. I'm backing Kiefer Lord at a plus 135 price. And, the drop off from 160, 165 yesterday, it makes sense. And, it was part of the handicap. And I think this is still a fair number. We're getting Kiefer Lord here. So maybe a little long shot, money line, parlay dog, Washington, Miami, Boston College. I think this is very, very viable tonight. I think Washington takes the series, and they're just going to keep digging that Arizona hole that the Wildcats are not going to get out of.
Yeah, props to you. You just keep swinging away on the Huskies, and now they're finally paying off for you. I'm going to join you with Washington today. I like Kiefer Lord. I like his stats. And like you said, Arizona's in a free fall right now. I'm down on the Pac-12 anyways. So anytime I see a little bit of an advantage on one side, you're getting a plus money price. I feel like you've got to bet it.
Yeah, for sure. Plus money with arguably one of the top 15 arms in college baseball this year. I think we're taking Chief Kiefer Lord Sosa at plus 135. This is a no-doubter, bro. Listen, I keep backing Kiefer Lord every weekend because at some point he's got to come home for me. The Huskies are underdogs every time he pitches. Like, it just doesn't make sense. And I got news for you. When they play Stanford, and I don't know if it's this weekend, or I'm sorry, next weekend, I'm backing them. I'm backing Kiefer Lord against Quinn Matthews next Friday. Let me just double check the schedule. Bear with me. As much as I love Quinn Matthews, Stanford almost pissed away like a 8-1 lead last night. So, it's not really reassuring. All right. So they don't play until April 21st. That's a Friday. So I'd probably venture to see we're going to get Kiefer Lord versus Quinn Matthews. I would say Washington's probably at least a plus 205, plus 210 dog against Stanford. I'm hammering Kiefer Lord in this Washington Huskies team because Stanford, bro, they ain't it. They are not this team that presents themselves as this LA Dodgers of college baseball. They're not that good, dude. They're really not. A lot of questionable pieces on this team.
Yeah, like I always say, it's the first to 5. And if you've got a good pitcher that's going to keep that other team from scoring 5 runs, I feel like you've always got a good shot in the Pac-12.
All right, so we have one more game that I really wanted to talk about because Wake Forest, NC State was postponed. What else is new? This goddamn rain just won't stop. Oklahoma State Cowboys, after a big opening series win 7-6 against TCU. They're at the Horned Frogs today. They're, again, same kind of price, minus 125 as a favorite. And, this is, again, what we talked about yesterday. We profiled the whole series. OK State games 1 and 2. They steal game 1. They're a smash spot in game 2. We're on Watts-Brown going. We're on Watts-Brown was amazing against Texas last weekend. I think he went 8 innings, had 12 strikeouts against one of the hottest teams in college baseball. Now, TCU is one of those teams that's also in something of a free fall. Now, OK State is building up. They're building up their credentials and getting themselves in good position to be hosting a regional in the first weekend of June. I think they take the series today. I think minus 125. It should be more like minus 145, minus 150 with JWB on the bump ski. I'm not going to get in the way of the way this kid's pitching right now. I think the Cowboys are the right side.
Dude, I completely agree. I love backing Oklahoma State today, and I can't believe the price is that cheap. I feel like they should be minus 165.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, 100%. So I don't really understand the way this is going. So we're kind of sweating out a little early parlay here. Matt, I took just an early one to see if we get the day off started the right way. I did East Carolina, I did Coastal Carolina, and I did Arkansas game 1. So East Carolina is kind of in a bloodbath right now. So is Coastal, kind of hoping that ECU can pull off the sweep, that they're getting a really good start from Josh Gross. And I know UCF they've been kind of sputtering a bit since their early season hot start, but ECU, man, they're a team that doesn't go away. And I just kind of felt like Gross throwing the way he's throwing, they should find a way to pull this out in a game 3 against this UCF Knights team.
Yeah, the only other thing I'm on that I don't think we covered is I did back Stanford because I like Matt Scott pitching today, and then I'm on Oregon State. It's even money, and I don't understand it with Trent Sellers on the bump. Stanford, Oregon State. I feel like I continuously bash the Pac-12. Yet I'm going to turn around and keep betting it like an idiot. But hopefully they keep cashing.
So I have a theory of why. So Oregon State had a good series win against Washington last weekend. Speaking of the Huskies, so my theory is a two-folded approach. Number one, Oregon's at home. Number two, Oregon just swept Arizona, is now in the top 25. So a lot of these times, and we've noticed this trend throughout the year, at least DraftKings, they give a lot of respect to the teams ranked in the top 25. Now, Oregon State is probably an overall better club, a better program than they are, but they're not in that top 25. And because Oregon is, the Ducks are getting a little bit more love. And, I would agree with you. I wouldn't lay it with Oregon because I don't think Oregon's good. I think, they beat up on Arizona like everybody else has.
Yeah.
I think I would probably, and, again, this is where it's really frustrating that we're not able to bet series prices, because this is one where I would bet Oregon State on a series price. To me, they have arguably the pitching advantage in every game. They have Trent Sellers today. They're going to have Jaron Hunter, Jacob Matz for the 1-2-3 series. Like, to me, it doesn't make sense. So I would back Oregon State on a series price if we were to get one. Ultimately, though, I do expect the Beavers to take 2 or 3. And Trent Sellers on the mound, I wouldn't be looking to fade him because that kid's good. He's got really good strikeout stuff too.
Yeah, so I just put together a little money line dog parlay. Washington, Oregon State, Boston College pays 10-1. Love it.
That's my guy, man. That's my guy. We're hoping we get these home.
Let's roll.
Matt, anything else that you're looking at today?
Man, I think that's it. Pretty slow day for a day that would be filled with all the games from yesterday. You've just have more cancellations here and there. And then, the lines kind of all adjusted. That's what sucks is when you have these cancellations, not only are you getting pushed into a doubleheader position, but the books get a chance to pull back and be like, okay, wait, why was everybody on this line? And then they rehang a new line and it's adjusted.
It gives them a free look. It gives them a free preview.
Yep.
And
exactly.
The sports books don't need any help. They don't need any extra advantage.
But I think they're getting their butts kicked right now, and that's why you're seeing them drop the totals and run lines and stuff like that. There's just not a way to handicap it accurately, and they're probably getting taken to the woodshed by hanging these lines. And so they're like, all right, no, we're not going to do it. We're not going to do it.
I actually had a thought. I was like, do you think maybe they're getting taken to the cleaners and that's why they stopped hanging run lines and totals? Because it was weird. I didn't notice it last year until later in the season, until like late May. And then this year they're hanging them early, and then now they're stopping in the middle of the year. So we don't know when and if we're gonna get them again.
Yeah,
that changes the handicapping.
Absolutely, because college baseball is. It's like the WNBA and tennis. It's a very sharp sport to bet. Just because of the limited information, and then you've got people like us where that's where we find all of our success is in beating the books to the information. Yeah, and once they start getting hammered on this stuff, well, that's when everything kind of falls back and the limits get increased or decreased, and the lines that used to be plus 165 on a good dog, now they're plus 115. You don't have run lines, you don't have totals. They're just making it harder to handicap.
Yeah, it's not fun. So hopefully, we just got to kind of weather the storm right now. We still have the ability to pick winners, and this is where the parlays even come into better effect because as much as people want winners, a lot of people don't want to lay 190, 200, and unfortunately, I don't like putting that out. I only put it out yesterday in an instance where it's like Vanderbilt against Mizzou. This is a smash spot. This is one that you have to take advantage of. But now the parlays are becoming more of a thing. It gives you a chance to generate more opportunities for revenue. But I actually have one more game I wanted to talk about. And the reason is because they are a key leg of my parlay today, with Wake Forest being pushed to tomorrow, which really pisses me off. But the Texas Longhorns against Kansas State. Now, Texas has Lucas Gordon throwing, who has looked really good this year. Kansas State's got Owen Barama, lefty, who's like nothing great. You know, he's not a guy that I'm really worried about necessarily. And even though Texas just lost to Oklahoma State, you know, they played a good series. I think ultimately they are in for a bounce back, and I think it all starts with Lucas Gordon. Texas, I'm not laying the 220 with them, but they are a key leg in several different parlays I have. I think they should rout Kansas State in game 1 here tonight.
Yeah, I like Texas a lot. I guess I didn't see a line, or I would have thrown them in a parlay. But it's just one of those things. The lines are getting back to where they should be. I mean, your aces should all be minus 200 or more, and the market's starting to reflect that. But yeah, I would stay away from laying it. I would definitely put it in a parlay, though. I think Texas.
It sucks because I had a large parlay with Texas, Wake Forest, and Wake Forest gets postponed, so now it's just Texas. And it's like, yeah, I think Texas is gonna win, but I don't want to lay like $300 just to back Texas. Like, you know, it should come home, but I'm not trying to do that. I'd rather get my money back and reallocate towards something else. But in any case, one more I wanted your opinion on here. UC Santa Barbara absolutely mopped Cal State Fullerton yesterday. I took a shot with them half unit because they were a big underdog. Do you think they're going to take one in this series, or do you think Santa Barbara is just going to keep just taking them out behind the woodshed?
I don't know. I've made some money back in Cal State Fullerton. I haven't watched it closely, but getting embarrassed yesterday, 14-0, that you usually have more parity when it comes to these West Coast teams. And I would expect them to bounce back. Now, whether or not they can win, we'll see. But I don't know. What'd you say the line was on it?
Yeah, Cal State's only getting plus 140. Santa Barbara is minus 175. I don't know if that's big enough for me to back Cal State Fullerton.
Yeah, I'd be looking at, plus 175 to plus 200.
Yeah, I agree.
I think UC Santa Barbara is probably the better team.
Yeah, they are a good team, the Gauchos. They're like one of the best mid-major programs in the country. But all right, thank you so much for taking the time. Be sure to follow Matt on Twitter at Grissom Tweets, and as well check out mattgrissom.com. Follow me on Twitter at _JohnnyVTV, Instagram, JohnnyVTV_, and TikTok, JohnnyVTV. We thank you so much for tuning in. Good luck this weekend, man. We still have a lot of college baseball left. We got some MLB. My best bet of the MLB slates, Hunter Green over 7.5 strikeouts. I got it at plus 120, gave it out on Sports Grid last night. That's down now. Probably wouldn't lay more than like 125, 130 for it. But I think Hunter Green's got a good matchup today against a Phillies team that strikes out a lot. So let's cash some tickets, man. And Matt, always a pleasure. And we'll talk next week.
Sounds good, man. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Best of luck.
All right.
See you guys next week. Thank you.